The year 2025 marks the 10th anniversary of myself reviewing movies on YouTube. Quite the astonishing feat, don't you think? A full decade of me covering movies on YouTube, from the independent to the mainstream, to the art house, to the blockbuster, to the best, and to the worst. Now I know that you guys obviously are here for you-know-what, but for those of you who stuck around my channel for all of the 8 years that I have been reviewing movies, even to the newly initiated, I just want to say thank you very much for your support. You all have made me strive to become a better critic and to make my channel stronger, to analyze movies a lot more critically, honestly, and just calling it like it is, and to shine light on the beautiful and ghastly feature films that Hollywood has to offer to us. And so, with that being said, a toast to another 10 years of reviewing movies. Well then, now that we've gotten that out of the way, it's finally time to incinerate what we've all been waiting to demolish. 10 maleficent, Luciferian entities from the film industry that should be cast out and never to return. Like always, for the newly initiated and the faithful, I have not seen every single movie under the sun, and there are some films that haven't quite made the cut. But for the chosen films of this video, the following are movies that not only wasted my time and pissed me off beyond belief, but have embarrassed themselves in front of the masses and angry mobs that await them. So let us open the gates of hell and see what lies in the cinematic city of Dis. For these are the top 10 worst movies of 2025. The original Tron was a milestone of visual effects. Tron Legacy is a rebooted sequel that exists. Tron Ares is like the evil stepchild that should be sent to solitary confinement. Now, little did I know, and I didn't even put this in my review, a third movie of Tron was originally going to happen, as it would reintroduce us to characters that we'd known once upon a time, before the entire project was scrapped because of the box office failure of Tomorrowland. To have this be the third Tron movie instead of what could have been, to quote an awesome Sting song, it's no wonder that after this movie bombed spectacularly at the box office, that the Tron franchise would be officially de-resoluted by Disney. With total disregard for the first two movies' canon, for the sake of a shoddy, insipid, plot hole-riven good company versus bad company storyline, with ludicrous messages about the limitations of AI, Tron Ares being as bad as it is comes to the surprise of absolutely no one. Banal acting, boring characters featuring one of the dumbest villains of the year, terrible direction from the man behind Maleficent, Mistress of Evil, baffling dialogue and exposition, and with the cherry on top being a rancid, ear-bleeding score by Nine Inch Nails. With Tron being dead and buried, who knows what other franchises that Disney will desecrate next. Our annual cinematic pillory continues as we continue to throw our expired tomatoes at The Weeknd's Chi-Chi self-important ego trip of a vanity project that is Hurry Up Tomorrow. Now, have I listened to The Weeknd's music? Okay, well, I've listened to a couple of songs, and he's a talented singer, and hey, who doesn't like Blinding Lights? Aside from the people who don't like Blinding Lights. But a producer, writer, and actor, he is not. Because this is one of the most indulgent, self-important, and embarrassing experimental musical thrillers that I have seen this decade. I would have loved to sat in on this pitch meeting with The Weeknd. Alright, Trey Edward Schultz, I have an idea for an art house movie, but in this film, let's spend a good 5 minutes of The Weeknd displaying how much of a tortured soul he is, while lecturing in front of the audience how emotional, complex, and profound his songwriting is. As actors like Barry Keoghan and Jenna Ortega embarrass themselves in front of the home viewing audience. And also, let's have The Weeknd cry in almost every darn scene he's in to drive home the point of how he's living such an insomniac and miserable life, even though his life isn't exactly stressful in any way, shape, or form, and the fact that his character is an utter tool given his previous relationships. Oh, and get this. Let's insert a subplot in which The Weeknd has been diagnosed with MTD, only to be forgotten about by the end of the film. What do you think? Need I remind you that this was co-written by The Weeknd? Sony. I think it's about time that you can any further Smurf projects for all of eternity. We've hated both Smurfing live action projects. The first animated Smurf movie you made was a Smurfing catastrophe, and now we have another Smurf movie with a different animation style. And yet, again, it acquires all the Smurfing elements that we've despised from previous installments. Everything about this Smurfing movie screams corporate. Product placement playing a pivotal plot point in the narration, that was massive alliteration. The film crowbarring in horrendous Smurfing musical numbers, with the vast majority of the movie's soundtrack being compiled of popular Rihanna songs, because guess who's playing Smurfette? The massive list of celebrity voices who do nothing but sleepwalk through their lines in a recording booth. The writers making this film imply cause and effect are for losers, and they chuck the plot right out the window, or the pandering dance sequences that kids mildlessly gaze at. Go Smurf yourself, Smurfs! Okay, that's enough. To this day, the perfect video game movie is still far out of reach. Of the ones that I have seen, the one that is legitimately pretty good is Sonic the Hedgehog 3, even despite its flaws. Now, we are last beheld to the movie that gave audiences and families theatrical trauma after 2 words were spoken. Chicken jockey. It took 11 years of developmental hell for people to finally see this pixelated poop stain nationwide, and was the theatrical wait worth it? Well, this movie was written by 6 screenwriters and directed by Jared Hess, who made Napoleon Dynamite, Nacho Libre, and Gentlemen Broncos. Does that answer your question? For the amount of effort that the production designers took to make this world, of all the repugnant qualities that this film has to offer, from horrific dialogue, the juvenile direction, and lazy characterizations, development, and chemistry, the worst part of this entire movie is the plot itself. The entire story is flooded with coincidences and contrivances for our characters to get from point A to B in the most effortless and stupidest way possible. To the point where you have an entire scene where you have 3 coincidences within seconds of each other. But the worst part about all this, considering how much money this movie has made, it's probably gonna get a sequel. Woohoo. You know this list is heading into treacherous territory when Disney's modern remake of Snow White is at number 6. The original Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, distributed by Disney himself, was basically the first animated feature film ever. It's one of the most important relics of our time that has changed animated filmmaking forever, establishing Disney as a household name while paving the way for future competitors to reach to the same glorious heights. If we were to take all of the behind-the-scenes drama away from this movie, that being Rachel Zegler being a PR nightmare to deal with, this remake is a complete bastardization of everything that the original stood for, right down to sabotaging its themes, changing our main heroine into a strong feminist figure that modern Disney has repeated 100 times over, had the dwarves contribute to the story, and the payoff of love's first kiss. Everything about this movie on a fundamental level is bad. The direction by Mark Webb is limp and lifeless. The changes in the narrative make no sense on a micro and macro level. The CGI for the dwarves will scare even the bravest soul, including the baby that was in my theater, true story, and Disney. What's with the socialist themes in this film? This is undoubtedly one of the worst remakes that Disney has ever manifested, and it astonishes me to no actual end that this movie was even greenlit, let alone released in theaters. But hey, at least we all know that the original will always and forever remain as the fairest one of all. The post-apocalyptic subgenre is one of my absolute favorite genres in media ever because of the limitless, imaginative stories and the well-realized potential of one of the ultimate what-if questions of our time. If our world were to end, if civilization turned into a futuristic dystopia, what would it look like? What would happen next? Well, the Russo brothers' answer to that question is, let's take a very bleak but visually euphoric illustrated novel that tells us about the dangers of overconsumerism and our slavish overdependence on technology, and turn it into our own version of a Steven Spielberg film. And as you can guess, the results were mortifying. With its preposterous $320 million budget, Netflix's The Electric State takes a very cautionary, retrofuturistic dystopian tale about consumerism and our overdependence of technology and turns it into a plot hole-written, catastrophic movie about rubber-hose robotic mascots wanting their equal rights. No, that's not a joke. Disastrous world building that doesn't make any sense and ignores the foundational blueprint that it was based on. The characters are unlikable and annoying, and the plot is about as harmful to your intelligence as the Neurocasters are in the book. Alongside all of the Netflix shovelware, this will serve as a permanent stain on the Russo brothers' filmography. What this will mean for Avengers Doomsday? Well, we'll see. This is precisely what happens when a production company that makes some of the worst horror movies imaginable distributes a adaptation of a survival horror independent point-and-click game with a massive following and grants the producer, who was the main driving force behind the entire games themselves, unlimited creative freedom, script approval, and is the head writer of the whole project. Because once you watch the flabbergasting result of Five Nights at Freddy's 2, you would arrive at the conclusion that Scott Cawthon has no freaking clue what he is doing. It is so bad that even complimenting the animatronics from Jim Henson's Creature Shop feels like a gimme at this point, because this movie wastes their talent on a very discombobulated script that has no sense of logic or cause and effect. The characters, even the supporting characters that are meant to be meat for the slaughter, are some of the dumbest human beings that I can recall for any horror movie. The jump scares were obnoxious, and its lazy attempt at fan service just goes to show you how much of a pandering waste of celluloid this monstrosity is. With the third movie, Beyond the Horizon, I don't think that this franchise is going to change for the better anytime soon, unless you are the director of our next contender, who doesn't learn his lesson ever. Somebody made this. Somebody actually got paid to write this. Who is that somebody, you would inquire? Go ahead, guess. If it's a film that headlines Milla Jovovich as a strong female action movie heroine who has barren characterization and the script bends its eternal logic just for her to survive obviously fatal situations, all because she is just that awesome, it could only mean one yeah, Paul W.S. Anderson made this. He directed the steaming, towering crock of feculence. Instead of what could have been Mad Max Fury Road meets Book of Eli meets Game of Thrones, we get The Dark Tower meets Jonah Hex. The cinematography is absolutely grotesque, wheeling lens flares at almost every single frame. The CGI and green screen compositing is ungodly bad. The acting is truly effing awful. Dave Bautista's wooden performance just proves to me that he isn't capable of carrying a leading man role. Milla Jovovich plays the same stale Mary Sue archetype that her husband loves to worship over and over again, and it has some of the stupidest, logic-destroying action sequences of Paul W.S. Anderson's career. This has to be the biggest lob of saliva on George R.R. Martin's legacy since Season 8 of Game of Thrones. As for the next contender, it spits on the legacy of H.G. Wells. I understand that I am a man who likes to go against the popular grain. I tend to avoid easy targets for worst of the year, to avoid any sort of trend. And I like being different from everyone else, not just for contrarian's sake. But to all the movie reviewers out there who have seen this movie, I see what the excitement is about. Oh, you guys thought I would unleash all hellfire on this piece of crap? Absolutely not. Because War of the Worlds is not only an abysmal failure, but it's a spectacular failure. Nothing about this movie works, and yet its incompetence is a feast for the eyes. The indescribable visual effects, the horrific execution of the FaceTime screen capture gimmick, and who could forget the magisterial Shakespearean talent of O'Shea Jackson Sr., aka Ice Cube. It's the best, worst movie that 2025 has to offer. Brought to you by Amazon. Seriously, this movie is such a shameful and cynical advertisement for Amazon that your climax of the movie involves our main character buying a flash drive directly from the Amazon website, bribing a homeless man a $1,000 Amazon gift card, and using a drone in a service called Prime Air to travel to the Department of Homeland Security to destroy the Martians by inserting a virus into the department's mainframes. What is Prime Air, you ask? Well, it's the future of It's the future of delivery! This movie is so bad, it must be seen to be believed. It's like the 2025 equivalent of Branded. Somebody in Hollywood came up with this idea of distributing this to Amazon, and they thought to themselves, we got a masterpiece on our hands. And it was, just, oh, for the wrong reasons. As for number one on this list, will I celebrate its unholy craposity? No, not a chance. That's right, as putrid as the walking Amazon advertisement that War of the Worlds was, Tim has the distinction of being the goated worst movie of 2025. At least War of the Worlds was entertaining. I can never watch him ever again. I would rather lay my entire body on burning sand, face forward, and remain in that pose for a century than ever watch this movie as penance. And to those who understood that reference, congratulations on knowing classic literature. I would rather be given a massage by Vontaze Burfict than ever see this movie again. I don't know what I hate about this movie more. The fact that the villains that are devil-worshipping football owners, agents, and their prolific athlete known as the greatest of all time literally make no sense. The fact that our main character is a blithering idiot. The fact that the main villain is just a stand-in for the life of quarterback Tom Brady, while the film uses its megaphone and tries to tell you commentary about how difficult it is being a black quarterback in a professional football league. That they have extra hurdles to jump over in order to be considered great compared to the white privileged quarterbacks. The fact that this movie has something to say about the dark side of American football when it has absolutely no idea what it's talking about. The fact that the movie suggests to its audience that they're too stupid for not understanding what it's trying to say, or the migraine-inducing editing that cuts back and forth between our main character and a negative outline of a skeletal body, like an epileptic music video, or the trailer for Charlie XCX's The Moment. Why is it that the movie makes a point about our main character having a career-threatening concussion, but not too bad to where he can recognize plays and do drills, only for him to disregard it and smash helmet to helmet on another player, and that doesn't kill him? Does the movie have any idea on how contracts, getting players, and drafting work? What is even the point of almost killing him if your main goal was to have him sign a contract essentially giving his soul to Satan? Heck, by the climax of the film, why don't they just keep their allegiances to Lucifer under wraps? As a man who loves football, who wants to get familiar and learn more about the history of the game, whose best childhood memories involve football, this movie is an apocalyptic, satanic farce. And to think that this movie was produced when they couldn't get the distribution rights for weapons makes it just even more sadder. All I can say right now is for Justin Tipping and Jordan Peele to put their heads down in shame, just like Tyler Loop when he missed that game-winning field goal against the Steelers. And that is why him is the worst film of 2025. Now, that wasn't so bad, was it? Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for sticking around for my picks of the top 10 worst movies of 2025. But brace yourselves and stand back, because we got another video on the way, which are the top 10 best films of 2025. Until next year, where we do this once more, my name is Luke Nukem, and you, my friends, have been blown away.
Champions of the North! Fuck!